You're inside the press box. Christian FM Sports presents Inside the Press Box, where we discuss all sports from our favorite high school team to college and pro. Here's your hosts, Paul Tipton and Gary Paris.
Hey, Vero Nation. Thanks for joining us inside the press box. Along with Gary Paris, I'm Paul Tipton. And wow, where have you been? Oh, I'm just kidding. We've kind of been all over the place. I think all of us have just kind of had our brains going in a lot of different directions thanks to Hurricane Ian. A lot of distractions have taken place over the last couple of weeks. And so we got a lot of ground to cover here. So, GP, let's get to it. In the last couple of weeks, we've had no games, and then we had two in the same week, starting with Fort Pierce Central on Monday. Then this past Friday was Wellington. Fort Pierce Central, first district contest for Vero Beach. And while the score is 47-7, we didn't really execute as well as we're capable of on the offensive side of the ball. And kind of hard, when you look at a score of 47-7 to go, oh my gosh, man, are you really going to complain about that? No, but it's just, the saying goes, GP, is like you don't want to ever drop down to a level of opponent. You want them to have to come up to you. And I felt that's a little bit of what took place on that Monday night.
I think a lot of it, Paul, and that's a good point you're making there about you don't want to play down to your opponent. You want your opponent to play up to you or try to play up to you.
Yeah.
And I really felt there was so much going on in these young kids and these mind, and you have a hurricane and you're out of school and you can't practice and you don't know when you're going to try to reschedule it. I mean, it's already been tough because the game before that was played in Sebastian because the field was in bad shape, and so you've had a lot of adjustments. But kids are resilient; they can bounce back, and we saw that on Monday night in the way the kids bounced back from it. I thought that it wasn't a. We're looking for perfection out of our team because we want to be good, and we don't like to see mistakes made. We like to see our quarterback have the highest rating out there. We like for our receivers not to drop a ball. We like for our linemen to block everybody and try. But in high school football, everybody you play, especially in our district, in our area, the teams are good. Central's not a bad team. Central played very physical with us. Yeah. And, we won, but it wasn't like you felt like you blew them out. You just, we kept scoring. And you say, well, boy, now you sound real greedy or
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But the point is that happened as the game went on. We made a lot of mistakes in that first game, and Lenny talked about them at his on that first game against Central, but we talked about it at the coach's corner on Tuesday nights at Caps. Yeah. He brought up to you and I and to our listeners some of the things we did. Quarterback didn't have wasn't perfect. The line wasn't perfect. The receivers weren't perfect. The thing that really looked really, really good out there was the defense. And again, I think what Coach Jay's trying to do is tell us every week we got improvements. It's a work in progress is what we're trying to do, and each week you think you're getting a little better and better, and before you know it, it's all going to come together. And I say come together. We haven't played our best game yet, in my opinion.
No, well, and I hope you're right on that. I certainly felt like the Miami Palmetto game, we played one of our best of the season at that point. I really hope that our best game will be somewhere in mid-December for a championship game.
I agree.
But, we'll see how that plays out here in the next several weeks. But, yeah, I mean, when it comes to Fort Pierce Central, I think all of us, I know for me, for sure, I looked at the film, but I also looked, I think I couldn't get the record out of my head, 1-4 coming into that ball game. And you kind of go, all right, well, they've only won one game. They've lost 4 games. We should easily beat them. Now, did we? Yes, we did. But as you said, the execution wasn't there. Offensively, we put up 33 points on the board. But here again, there were some interceptions by our quarterbacks. There were some blocking that, or lack thereof on that offensive line that you go, all right, guys, if you play the better teams like your Treasure Coast, playoff potential teams, this ain't going to cut it. And that's, I think, why we kind of go, we got to get better.
Well, you're right. And again, playing Central is a big district game. We wanted to get that one behind us. We went out. We played it on a Monday. We won that game. We won.
Yeah, you did what you're supposed to do.
You did what you're supposed to do. You were supposed to win and supposed to win big. So then you say to yourself, okay, how are we going to look on Friday now? Now our concern was playing a game, a short turnaround, and playing a Wellington team that has a winning record. And Vero came to the game again. Didn't have its best game again.
Yep.
But it won, 41-14, I think it was.
Yeah, 41-14.
And I think the thing that bothered us, the coaches more, especially Coach Mata, was that last touchdown. He didn't. They don't ever like giving up touchdowns.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, and again, that's one of those that's like, can you sound greedy? Sure, but you also like the fact that they're that passionate about it that they don't want to give up points. They don't care who they're playing against. They want, at the end of the night, they want to see a 0 on that other side of the scoreboard. And I love that. I'd rather have that than them go, well, we only gave up 20 points. We only gave up 30 points or whatever. We outscored them. No, I don't like that because, once you get to that elite level where you're playing the best teams in the state, that won't cut it.
Well, Wellington is a team from the Palm Beach area. They play a very tough schedule themselves, and they came in, and again, Vero had too much talent, even with some mistakes, even with some miscues and some penalties. I mean, the penalties, again, went back to hurt us again in the game, in Friday night's game. I mean, we just got to do a better job of eliminating the penalties. But again, you played aggressive. You went out and you won the game. You did what you're supposed to do. You won.
Right, we did. And like you said, 41-14. And again, short turnaround. You also had a few other things that you could put in that classification of distractions. Homecoming week. There were all kinds of things going on. They actually didn't have school on Wednesday. It was a holiday. So there again, another chance for distractions. You had the homecoming festivities on Friday night, with homecoming court, long halftime. Okay, all those different things. Plus, Friday morning before the game ever gets close to being started, Vero gets a chance to be recognized on a national stage on NBC's Today Show. So there were logistics going into that whole interview days to a week or so before you ever got to that game. So another opportunity for just slight distractions. That's all it takes. Just a few minutes here, a few minutes there. That can be the difference, of how much prep time goes into a football game. But in the end, Vero did what it was supposed to do. Win big. And now they can set their sights for this next stretch. These last 3 weeks of the season are super, super critical. 2 road games and 1 last home game, and it's all district contest, GP.
It is, and I'm going to go back to recognize a couple elements of the game that are important. We finally we got to see Tyler Aronson open up a little bit in the Fort Pierce Central game. He threw for 284 yards. He was 21 of 32, had 2 touchdowns, but there was some interceptions that needed to be worked out. And that's what I think bothered Coach coming into the game against Wellington. Tyler had 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
That's a nice numbers.
That's the nice numbers. Those were mostly put up around that first half of the ball game and part of the third quarter. But and then everybody got a chance to rest because it was a good win for Vero Beach. But how about Vondravius Jacobs? This young man, what a talent, what a gifted athlete. And I think you brought out a point that right now what is he, number 1?
In the state of Florida, he is the leading receiver in yardage. So he's got 841 yards receiving. He's number 1 in the state of Florida overall. That's not just a particular class or anything like that. Overall in the state of Florida. And in the country, he's listed as number 82. So that's a special talent right there. And who knows what his final numbers will be for this season when it's all said and done. But wow, what numbers he's putting up.
He's gifted. I mean, that's all I can say to you is that this young man has a lot of talent, and he likes to catch the ball. He's got tremendous moves, got great speed. They try to double team him, and what does he do? He goes right by both of them, the double team, and on a slant, and a deep slant across the field, and it was great to watch him play and to watch him catch the ball.
Yeah.
He's one of those athletes that wants the ball. And if I'm ever going to throw it to him, I want to throw it up a little high because he can get up and go and get it.
Yeah.
So, we got to see Jacobs. Then how about Quincy coming back this past week?
Love seeing number 2 on the field.
Number 2 on the field. I mean, I tell you, he had 92 yards rushing coming back out and 1 touchdown. And that was good. That was good to see him back out there.
Yep.
He gave us that extra confidence out on the field, and that was a big difference right there.
Yeah, I think, and nothing to take away from Jonathan Hillsman, who on Monday night got the start because Quincy and Jean were not available because of injuries. I think Jonathan did about as good a job as he could have done given the circumstances on Monday night. But it's that kind of knowing that you have the depth, Gary, like, okay, Quincy, maybe he gets the start, maybe Jonathan gets the start, but knowing that, okay, if Jonathan, say, gets the start and is not producing, Quincy can come in and vice versa. So that was probably more our concern than anything else about, who's on the field. It's knowing that you've got the depth because guys can only run so many plays, and they got to get a breather. And if you don't have another guy back there, then the defense is never going to respect that.
Well, you're right. I mean, Tyler Aronson has started to try to run a little bit more. He's got to be, there's design plays. And he has got to be able to, when they want him to run, when they see a team clear the middle, when you put a man in motion, you empty backfield, and everybody goes out, and then we got a play called where you got to follow that guard around. He needs to do that instead of trying to ad-lib a little and go on his own. And that way he won't get hurt so bad when he's out there if he gets a direct shot. But he's starting to become more creative, a dual threat running back. And then, again, last week, how about Hillsman? He got 2 carries, 52 yards.
Yeah, no. And when he finds a little bit of a hole, and honestly, it only takes a little hole. He finds a way, he slides right through there, and then he's got the jets to turn it on and take a what could be maybe a 3 or 4 yarder to turn it into a 15-yarder.
I thought our offensive line with Ben Hall, Paul Paris, Silas Batchelor, Chase Stevens, and Jordan Dalton did a Dalton Jordan did a great job blocking for him.
Yeah,
and I also thought Nate Gwen had his best game. He had one catch.
What a catch.
What a catch. What a catch. He went up high, got it, and showed his speed.
Did he? Wow.
One catch, he went 52 yards, I believe.
I think it was like 63.
63 yards. And almost got a touchdown.
Yeah.
Almost got it. Just came in that close.
Yeah, it could make an argument if you go look at film that maybe it was a touchdown, but, that's the way the officials ruled it. And, of course, then I love that little package that Coach Jay put in there where, you've got Keyshawn Campbell now lining up in the backfield. He runs for a couple of scores in that ball game.
You don't know how proud or big his chest was pumping out. What a deceptive play. Really, you had the quarterback in there.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if he handed it off to the big guy, which he lets the big guy go by, and then hands it off to Campbell, who's about to push, and he scoots into the end zone for 2 touchdowns. Great execution.
All right, so those 2 games are in the book. Now we go back to a normal week. one game just this week. But again, big game because it is the most important game on our schedule this week. We have St. Lucie West Centennial. It is Josh Watkins at as head coach. And as I say, Watkins Part 2. And, Centennial playing some good ball right now. They are 5-1. They have a district win, so to speak. They did play Fort Pierce Central. That game was stopped with just about 4 minutes to go in the ball game, but they're leading 10-0. Now, as I understand it, that will most likely be considered a win. Now, if something comes up with the district, standings, and they feel like they need to finish that game, they will. But more than likely, this is going to stand as a win for those guys. So we'll just go ahead and say 5-1 right now. Now, you look at the teams that they've played. It's not a super strong schedule, but, I'm sure we can make the same arguments for Vero right now if you look at their schedule. But that all said, all this stuff generally goes out the window. It's going to be the true first road game for Vero Beach. District contest, GP.
Yeah, it's an important game for Vero Beach. It starts our district. The next 3 games is the wrap-up of our district, Centennial, Martin County, and then Treasure Coast. So, to me, it's like playing the big 3. Mm-hmm. The big 3 are coming, and now you've got to take them on the road, which is our first road game.
Yep.
And it's not easy playing down there at that stadium, as you know, over the years.
Right.
We've
always seems like something weird happens down there.
Yeah, well, it was a few years ago. Remember, DeMarcus Harris was in the game as a safety.
Yeah,
and they threw a screen on the left side.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, boom, down the sideline he goes.
Like
DeMarcus
50 or 55 yard.
DeMarcus comes up, hits from behind, pops the ball out, and we recovered in the end zone.
Yeah,
and we got the ball.
Sealed the win. Yeah.
Right there. Or they would have won that game that year.
Yeah.
So let me just say this. Watkins is going to have, Josh Watkins will have them ready to play.
Sure.
They know enough film. Josh is very familiar with our offense. Mm-hmm. And so I guarantee you they'll have them ready to play. It's going to be a great district battle. It's going to be a fun game to broadcast, a fun game to watch, because you got 2 teams that are going to battle each other, that know each other well, and it makes for a. Anytime you play district, it just puts a little more emphasis on that game.
Sure.
So I'm looking forward to playing these guys. I'm excited about it, and I like Vero's chance to win. I think our defense is playing as good a football as you can imagine, and with the scheme that Bill Mata has set up and all. So I'm excited about the game.
I agree with you, Gary. And, again, I think, this wasn't necessarily planned, but the fact that just a few weeks ago we had to find a neutral field to play Miami Palmetto, I think kind of helps Vero Beach. Now they kind of have an understanding about what the routine will be like for a road game. Wasn't planned, but I think it might end up being a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, because you got to get on a bus, travel about 15, 16 miles down the road to play at Centennial, or play Centennial there at their ballpark. And so you're right. Whereas we played in Sebastian a few weeks ago, got on the bus, had to go into a foreign country and to get yourself, really adjusted quick to go play a ball game. So I think that was a good outing for us in Sebastian, and I think that's going to help us here.
I think the real test, and I think where this is going to be the key, Gary, and you could probably say this about most games, but Centennial's got a pretty good defense. They're not giving up a lot of points. Now their offense is only scoring about 20 points a game, but honestly, their defense, they've pitched 3 consecutive shutouts of their own, just like Vero Beach. And, the most points they gave up this season was 40 points. That was to DeLand in week 2. That's the only loss that they have. Beyond that, you're seeing 9 points. They only gave up 13 points to Martin County. So, that I think is really going to be the key there. Can Vero Beach's offense that's averaging close to 40 points a game, continue that trend, or will Centennial's defense shut them down?
Hello. You're about to meet Vero Beach. Vero Beach is tough.
Yeah.
They got an explosive offense.
True.
They can move that ball up and down the field. Mm-hmm. They got a defense that will match with anybody around here. And we do Vero Beach. And I'm going to tell you right now, I look for us to win. I really do. I mean, do I think it's going to be a good game? It could be.
Yeah.
Do I think we're going to win? Yeah. Could we win by 2 or 3 touchdowns? Yes. Man, we could win by a touchdown. But I really look for us to win the ball game. I just think our kids are really starting to mature on that offense. A lot of young kids. That young, it's an offensive line that's only had, 2 starters from last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2, maybe 1.5. And but this line is starting to play some good football.
Yep.
Quincy's healthy. Mm-hmm. You got receivers. You got Woolard's having a good year. Mm-hmm. You got Vondravius is having, and they're going to try to take Vondravius out of the game.
Everybody has
tried.
Nobody succeeded.
Yeah, it's hard to do. Then you got Brock Thomas coming in making plays for you. You got Nate Gwen making a big play for you last week. We got too many weapons, I think, to slow us. They can slow us down from.
So that defense of Centennial has a combined 14 takeaways, 8 interceptions, 6 fumble recoveries. So they're stingy. But again, as you said, Gary, Vero Beach comes in with an offense that has a lot of options, a lot of skill players. So what are you going to do? Are you going to try to double up Dre and leave some other receivers open? Maybe. And then they got to prove they're going to catch the ball and hurt you.
Well, again, when we threw Troy Smith out on the other side, who has got tremendous amount of speed. Mm-hmm. You got Quincy catching the ball out of the backfield, running the ball really well. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just a lot of good weapons out there. And again, you're seeing Tyler Aronson is maturing as a quarterback. Mm-hmm. He's learning this system. And
he's over 1,500 yards on the season.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But he still hasn't learned the whole system and feels. I think he's starting to feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, and Coach Jay, he brings in new changes every week. So it's not like you've been running this same offense, for 7-8 weeks now. Well, that's true, but every week there's a new extra wrinkle because your opponent forces you to have extra wrinkles.
You got to. I mean, teams start taking away certain things from you.
Right.
You've got to be able to answer it. You've got to find a way to get number one the ball. And Vondravius is that you got to get ways to get him the ball.
Yep.
You got to find ways to get Woolard the ball. You got to find ways to get Quincy the ball. I mean, you're a team that's got some good talent, and you got to be creative enough to do it. That means your quarterback's got to be smart enough to recognize it, and he is.
We're all heading down to South County Stadium this Friday night. We'd love to have you there as well. Game time is at 7 o'clock. Our coverage begins at 6 p.m. with countdown to kickoff. If for whatever reason you can't make it down to the stadium, of course, you can listen on the radio, online, and you can watch it on our YouTube channel, Vero Nation Network. Hey, GP, don't stay away so long next time, okay? It's okay. You can come back and join us next week. It's okay.
Yeah, my fault.
Hey, thanks for joining us inside the press box. Along with Gary Parrish, I'm Paul Tipton. As always, go Indians.
Thanks for joining us inside the press box. For more, go to ChristianFM.com.